Welcome to another edition of the Weekly Files. Here's some major news in this past week. Government officials push back on threats of mass firings during shutdown. As the US federal government remains in a funding standoff, senior officials are privately cautioning against the use of mass federal employee terminations, known as reductions in force, RIFs, during a shutdown. These warnings come amid growing concern that such moves could cross legal lines and provoke serious challenges. Background: shutdown. Plus, threats of layoffs. The federal government is currently shut down, furloughing roughly 750,000 workers and halting operations at several agencies, e.g., education, commerce, labor, state. Some essential services, such as Social Security and the US Postal Service, continue operating because they don't rely on annual appropriations. President Trump and Office of Management and Budget, OMB, Director Russell Vought have indicated that mass dismissals are imminent if the shutdown persists. Several agencies reportedly have plans prepared to terminate fewer than 16,000 employees, according to a senior White House official. Legal red flags and internal warnings. Senior federal insiders are cautioning that executing RIFs during a funding lapse may violate key statutes, including Anti-Deficiency Act, which prohibits spending funds that Congress has not appropriated, and may extend to severance or termination costs during a shutdown. Rules governing federal layoffs require justification, e.g., lack of work, reorganization, or funding shortages. But courts and experts argue that a temporary funding lapse isn't an established ground for mass firings. Regulations also generally require 60 days advance notice before layoffs. If a shutdown ends quickly, agencies may struggle to comply. These internal cautions roughly conflict with the rhetoric coming from the White House, which presents firings as a legitimate, accepted activity under the president's constitutional authority. Union lawsuits and legal pressure. Even before actions are taken, several federal unions have sued OMB and the Office of Personnel Management, seeking to block any sweeping RIFs during the shutdown on the basis that agencies lack authority to do so. Some legal analysts believe the unions have strong arguments. Past cases have seen firings by the Trump administration reversed or blocked. Still, courts may be unpredictable in politically sensitive cases like this. While legal precedent supports many employee protections, the unique nature of a government shutdown presents untested ground. Political dimensions and strategic uses. The Trump administration has threatened to withhold or freeze funding intentionally. For example, an $18 billion infrastructure fund allocation to New York City was paused, and $8 billion in green energy spending was cancelled, targeting states that supported Democrats. Critics call this political retaliation. Some Republican senators appear to be increasing pressure on Democrats, suggesting that legislative action must occur immediately or things go south. Implications and what could happen. If mass firings proceed, they may face legal challenges, internal pushbacks, reversals, and severe reputational fallout. Agencies may hesitate to move forward under the legal cloud, especially given the threat of lawsuits and the possibility of the shutdown ending before firings take full effect. The standoff deepens political tension. Democrats argue funding and legislative negotiations should come first, while Republicans lean into the threat of layoffs as leverage. Workers and agencies are already operating under confusion, stress, and uncertainty over pay, instructions, and future stability. In other news, Diddy Combs sentenced to over 4 years in prison for prostitution-related convictions. Diddy Combs, the hip-hop mogul and entrepreneur, was sentenced on October 3, 2025, to 50 months, just over 4 years, in federal prison after being convicted in July of transporting individuals across state lines for prostitution. The ruling was handed down by U.S. District Judge Aaron Subramanian in Manhattan, who also imposed a $500,000 fine. Combs is expected to appeal the conviction. Trial background and charges. Combs, age 55, was convicted of 2 counts involving the transportation of male escorts to join drug-fueled sexual encounters with his girlfriends, which he allegedly recorded. He was acquitted of more serious charges, including racketeering and sex trafficking. Prosecutors had originally sought a sentence exceeding 11 years, citing a history of abuse, coercion, and violence against his girlfriends. Combs' defense asked for a much more lenient sentence, 14 months, citing his struggles with addiction and time already served. Emotional sentencing and remarks. During the hearing, Combs expressed remorse and addressed the court directly. I'll never put my hands on another person again. He also apologized to his former girlfriends, acknowledging past abuse. Before the sentence was announced, his children made emotional appeals for leniency, emphasizing that they still need him present in our lives. Judge Subramanian cited Combs' history and noted that while positive contributions, e.g., philanthropy, were recognized, they could not erase the misconduct. Implications and aftermath. Because Combs had already been held in a Brooklyn jail since his September 2024 arrest, some of that time will count toward his sentence. Combs also faces civil lawsuits over related allegations of sexual misconduct and abuse. His legal team plans to appeal. This is a major development in a high-profile case that has already drawn intense public, legal, and media scrutiny. Taylor Swift's The Life of a Showgirl, a brighter, bolder chapter. Taylor Swift's 12th studio album, The Life of a Showgirl, dropped on October 3, 2025, and has already stirred a lively mix of praise, critique, and fan devotion. From shadows to spotlight, a return to pop. After the introspective and often somber tones of the Tortured Poets department, Showgirl marks a shift, brighter production, tighter structure, and a sense of reclaiming glamour. Swift reunited with longtime collaborators Max Martin and Shellback, making this her first project with them since Reputation. The album clock runs lean at 12 tracks, her shortest original collection in recent memory, and explores themes of love, fame, and identity. Themes, highlights, and lyric risks. Swift appears to harness showbiz metaphors and spotlight imagery to explore what goes on behind the scenes. In the title track, featuring Sabrina Carpenter, she conjures a narrative about the life of a showgirl, glamorous, demanding, yet fragile. Standout moments include Wood, a flirtatious, cheeky track that has drawn both applause and criticism for its lyrical boldness, some calling it playful, others calling it over the top. Actually Romantic, speculated to be a diss track aimed at Charlie XCX with tongue-in-cheek and homoerotic imagery. Father Figure interpolates George Michael's song of the same title and dives into themes of influence, loyalty, and power. Critical reception, mixed but engaged. The reviews reflect a divided consensus, not a flop, but not a universal triumph either. Praise and positives. Rolling Stone lauded the album, awarding it 5 stars and highlighting Swift's lyricism and sonic confidence. Variety praised it as an album of the summer quality, light, emotional, and fun. Critics from BBC and The Guardian, in more favourable remarks, saw it as a joyous, well-crafted turn from her more brooding recent work, concerns and critiques. Some reviewers felt the album lacked the dramatic highs or strong hooks of her best work. Others found the lyrics occasionally flamboyant to the point of distraction. A few viewed parts of the record as leaning too heavily on production gloss over emotional weight, cultural impact and fan energy. Even critics who were lukewarm couldn't ignore the fervour among fans. Before release, Showgirl became the most pre-saved album in Spotify history, surpassing 5 million pre-saves. Swift supported the launch with a cinematic release called The Official Release Party of a Showgirl, featuring behind-the-scenes content and the premiere of the Fate of Ophelia video. Showgirl doesn't feel like a radical reinvention, but a purposeful pivot, one toward theatricality, confidence, and emotional clarity. As one critic put it, it draws on the intimacy of her folklore era, while injecting it with more oomph. It's arguable that Swift is leaning into her role not just as a songwriter, but as a spectacle, exploring the interplay between performance and identity. Kristi Noem blasts NFL, pledges ICE enforcement at Super Bowl over Bad Bunny show. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is intensifying her criticism of the NFL, labeling the league so weak, and declaring that Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, will have a visible presence at Super Bowl 60, amid controversy surrounding the selection of Bad Bunny as the halftime performer. Bad Bunny and ICE tensions. Bad Bunny, a Puerto Rican artist, had previously expressed concerns about performing in the US during his tour due to fears that ICE activity could threaten attendees. When asked about the NFL's decision to include him in its halftime lineup, Noem didn't hold back. "They suck and will win. They're so weak. We'll fix it." She framed her stance as one of national security and law enforcement. "I have the responsibility to make sure everybody who goes to the Super Bowl can enjoy it and to leave safely. We'll be all over that place." Noem went further, saying that spectators at the big game should be law-abiding Americans who love this country. Thank you for watching, but for now, it's goodbye.